Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Inevitable Jim. Today it's geo-tracker time, that's right. This geo-tracker is affectionately known as Colonel Potter. Now, more on that story later in the video as to why. So it's a 1995 geo-tracker that Pamela and I keep up at a place we have up along the Mississippi River that we go to in the summertime, a lot on the weekends and such. Let's walk around Colonel Potter and I'll tell you a little bit about him. Colonel Potter here, he is a two-wheel drive version, which is fine because a lot of people use golf carts and stuff around up there too, but he's a two-wheel drive version and he's got a story. So I found Colonel Potter on Facebook Marketplace, of course, and he was owned by a gentleman that had a ranch up here, and he used Colonel Potter as his on-the-property side-by-side maintenance vehicle. So when I first got him, he didn't have any doors. Now the doors came with him. He didn't have a top. He didn't even have a rear seat. However, all that stuff came with Colonel Potter. So I bought Colonel Potter and then I kind of had to put him back together. So when I first got him, as you can see here by the door jamb, he was originally green. So I put the doors on, had to paint them green. Now, the rocker panels are entirely built with some sheet metal and Bondo. There's a whole lot of Bondo going on in the side of them here. I mean, if I get in here close, you can see all kinds of backyard butchery bodywork, but you know what? It works for him. I put the rear seat in it, put a spare tire on the back. It's even got a hitch for moving the boat around up there. And on this side, it pretty much looks the same as well. We've got some good old chewy tires to get around because we do drive through the creeks and the streams up there and do a little bit of trail stuff. But overall, he's just a fun ride. I've really kind of grown to love him because you can get in him, you can take him anywhere, and you don't care if you get a door ding. But you know what? It's time for the yearly maintenance. So I bring him home every year, and I do oil change, service all the different things, and fix anything I may have broken throughout the season or any other maintenance issues that pop up. So we got a list of things we need to do. But first, got a situation. So what's that situation, you might ask? Well, it's this. We brought Colonel Potter home. It's about an hour and a half drive, and I was already up there with the trailer, so I threw him on the trailer, brought him home. That was about 3.5, 4 weeks ago. Well, winter has set in here in Iowa, and it's like, I think it's like 13 degrees outside right now, and as you can see, he's here in my shop. I got to get him home to the home garage so we can do all the maintenance and service on him today. So we got to drive with the top's wide open. It's going to be a little chilly, so we're going to get going pretty quick here. Crank up the heat, fly home to the home garage. Let's go. Coming in hot. All right, everybody, we are back here in my home garage, and we have Colonel Potter here. Now, I've got a list over here of some things. So it needs an oil change. We're gonna get that done. We're gonna get an oil change done. It kind of developed the front end knock, rattle. I don't know how that could possibly happen. You should see how I drive this thing through the creek beds. Got to clean it out. Valve cover gasket leak. There's a story behind that. We need to do a little floor rebuilding. I'm going to cover that. And then, of course, a full just general inspection, take the wheels off, look at the suspension, brakes, and everything. Now, the popular thing to have up in the community that we spend our time in up there is side-by-sides. You know, I get it. Side-by-sides are all the rage, and they're cool. And I've thought about buying one, but here's the problem. I just cannot bring myself to spend the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 it takes to buy one of them rigs. Because you know me, I can't just have a basic one. I'd have to have some goodies on it. Well, by the time you do that, it's just a whole lot of money tied up in a machine that honestly is just going to get used a little bit each year. Colonel Potter here, he gets driven about 700, 800 miles a year, and that's it. Pamela and I, we have a quad four-wheeler, and it's the touring type with the back seat, so we can go do that stuff when we want to. So I just can't bring myself to spend the money. So, enter Colonel Potter. So one of the funny things that we did is, I'm going to zoom in up here for you and let you see. So I put that graphic on the windshield, and everybody's gotten quite a kick out of that. I just figured in today's day and age, he could choose to identify as whatever he wished. So let's dig in and get started. Okay, so let's have us a look-see under here. And as you can see, he's pretty rusty and crusty under here. There's been quite a few questionable weld repairs there. A tube's been run through because that's the front chassis tube that kind of holds everything together. And as you can see, it was rusted clean off. So the tube has been put inside that tube and then welded in. He's been patched together a time or two. Now, oil pan has been replaced. I did put new shocks and struts on them last winter. We had a pretty bad oil leak that I got literally band-aided up. We're going to address that. And as you can see, he's had the rocker panels completely patched in and replaced and screwed in and metal cut out. Gets back here, and you can see where the corrosion's really heavy now. I had to put a new gas tank in him when I first got him a couple years ago. So you can see it has a new tank. And as you can see here, the entire cross tube for the fuel tank is gone. Completely rotted out of him. So that's why I had to make these threaded rod fuel tank mounts to patch them together. So yeah, this is he is the epitome of backyard butchery. However, he just runs and drives really good. And we just love him to death. So we're going to keep fixing them and putting them together. Now, got the floor pretty well ventilated here. That's the carpeting right there. I have to do some of that, and I have to do something with this. That's quite a ventilation mark. So just so happens I can repair that. Okay, looks like pretty much what I expected. Some general maintenance and a little backyard butchery. Yeah, here's some algae and stuff from the creek bed. Yeah, he might have beat down a creek bed or two this last summer. Oh, here's a little more of it. Yeah, well, we'll get that all cleaned up. Let's get the wheels off. All right, now we got the wheels off, wheels and tires off. You can see brake rotors look pretty good. There's no real major grooving or anything. You can see, yep, the new struts from last year. Now the frame and the part of the structure that needs to be strong for the most part is still pretty good. And that's why we keep patching them up. Let's take a look at the other side. Yeah, again, the rotor on this side looking pretty good. Not too concerned with that. Now back here, this shock mount, part of it is there is the metal tube that came across here that used to be part of the fuel tank support. Is part of what's missing. And honestly, now that I look at it, the whole structure here all the way around and the main gusset back here is very much intact. I think that shock mount will be okay. See, this is what it's supposed to look like over here. You can see this round part. That's the structure that's just literally rotted off the other side, but the rest of it's pretty strong. I think we're going to let the shock mount go at least for another year. Okay, let's get under the hood and see what we got going. Now, for those of you that own geo-trackers know that one of the funnest things to do is ask one of your buddies to say, hey, pop the hood for me. They'll spend all day and usually not find it. That's because Geo, and there's infinite wisdom, put the hood release in the glove box. Yes, so you open the glove box, reach in here, there's your hood release. Gotta love the idiosyncrasies. All right. So underneath the hood here we have 1.6 liters of thundering power. The 1.6 liter engine, obviously one of the smaller ones, but This thing runs like a watch. It really runs really good. So one of the things is the valve cover gasket was leaking really bad, and it's because I actually made a mistake on it a year ago. I'm going to get this apart and show you what I did wrong, and then we're going to see how I butcher fixed it. So let's take it apart here. So I decided to go ahead and turn the camera back on and just kind of film the whole process. But as I mentioned in the last video, you guys send me a lot of emails, and I really do enjoy getting them and reading them, and I try to respond to them as often as I can as well. The biggest thing I love is when you guys send me pictures of what you're working on. And I'll tell you what, you guys work on some pretty nice stuff. There was he didn't give me his name. He had a white 97 Z71 Chevrolet pickup. Gorgeous truck. But dude, tell me, what's with the email address? Yes, sir, Moo Moo something? There's got to be a story behind that one. Email me again. Tell me the story. But Sean, Sean's a guy who lives, an hour and a half west of here. Sean sent me pictures of his rides, and he's got the Chevy pickup his grandpa bought when it had 10 miles on it, bought it brand new. That's a pretty truck too. I'm gonna get back to work here and get this apart. And once again, it's the return of Turbo Jim taking off the valve cover. So this would be a perfect time to mention to you that merch is coming. I think it's within a week away, but we're still working really hard on it. I hope to see some prototypes this week. So let's get that valve cover off. Okay, so if you have a look here, you can see from here to here, this is solid RTV because the gasket is no longer in contact with the valve cover and there are these little tabs here that hook the gasket in, and I actually I simply over torqued it, and this valve cover has a very rounded edge here. I'll show you once I get it cleaned up. And this little tab snapped, so the gasket split in, and it was just dripping a little bit, so I thought I needed to snug it up. And that's when I over torqued it, when I snugged it up again, and then it began pouring oil. Well, obviously I couldn't get a gasket for a Geo Tracker on a Sunday, so I took it apart and I filled this whole thing with silicone, let it dry, and then just set it on there, let it set up for an hour, tightened it up slightly, and you can see all the extra silicone that was put on. I do not recommend using that much silicone, but hey, it worked in a pinch, and sometimes that's what you got to do. I'm going to get this cleaned up and be back in a minute. Okay, so I got it all cleaned up here. What I'm talking about is these rails aren't exactly, see if I can get the camera to focus in on it. There's quite a curve here. It's not a squared off corner. So that slope, there's nothing here for that gasket to grip. So when that little tab broke off and I over torqued it because it was seeping, that just squished the gasket to the inside. Because the only thing that keeps that gasket in place is these little tabs on the gasket itself. So I'm going to go ahead and put a very thin film of silicone just to kind of glue the gasket, get the gasket on and get this back on and seal her back up. Okay, I got the new gasket in here, and I decided against the silicone because I got this opened up, and that's a pretty thick, beefy gasket. And these tabs here, you just push these tabs through these little T pieces, and that's what actually holds it in. But this gasket fit in here really nice, and it's pretty beefy, so I'm going to go without silicone because it should do the job. Let's get it back on the ride. there you have it. Got the valve cover gasket back on. Now, I know there was a couple of bracket bolts that didn't go back in because it was missing a couple ever since I've owned it, and honestly, they're overkill. So I never bothered chasing the metric bolt down. Well, as you can see it, we have a little bit of an issue here. I got the carpet pulled back, and tilt you in here a little bit closer. We have an issue on the floor here. A little bit of extra ventilation going on here, so I'm gonna get all this extra stuff broke off here and get a good look at what we got in here to work with. So we can get shot back and pry bar, screwdriver, something, and let's get to tapping some of this out of there. So as you can see, we got quite the ventilation problem there. Got it all cleaned up though, got all the tar stuff off the floor, and so I went over to the parts shelf, and wouldn't you know it, I actually have a full set of custom 95 Geo-Tracker floor pans. Look at right there, I got a whole set of 4 Geo-Tracker custom floor pans. Let's get them fitted. Alrighty, got that hit with a coat of rust converter, and I don't know if the rust converter really does anything, but hey, makes me feel better. So I got the custom floor pans modified here, ready to go in. And it just so happens I actually had 1995 model custom floor pans in stock. So I'm gonna start getting these set down in here. And these floor pans even came with their own factory installation hardware, AKA self-tappers. Let's get them put in. All right. Oh, look at that custom fit. Oh, yes. Like butter. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Well, let's get the custom installation kit going here. Uh-oh, out of battery. Hold on. Okay, crisis averted. New battery. Okay, maybe that give you a little better angle now. Put my hat on backwards. Can't have the talent blocking up the view now, can we? All right, I'm gonna get the rest of these screws in and we'll be back. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna call that 5 out of 5 stars. It's amazing, perfect fitment. Let's get this finished up. And there you have it, mint. All righty, let's get on this oil change here. Furnace kicked on. Hopefully it's not too loud over the video, but it's cold in Iowa. So let's get the oil drained here. So as I mentioned, I have been reading all the emails and such I get, and guys, I love it. I love all the communication, I really do. And Devin, who goes by the name Chico, he shared with me he likes working on the 90s 6.5 GM diesels, and he's putting together a 97 crew cab service truck right now with the diesel. So good at it. And good going, Devin. Find a passion and chase it down, go after it. So, and then you might remember from the second episode, I was talking about the rock auto magnets, and Joseph, he goes by Uncle Jojo, man. He has got an impressive collection of magnets. And thanks for the picture, Jojo. I appreciate it. It's pretty cool seeing all that. We're gonna get this oil drained and get this thing down. We'll get the wheels on it, wrap service up. Okay, we'll go ahead and get her filled back up with oil. Yeah, I know I'm using 1540. She's a tired little engine. Give it all the extra viscosity it needs. And I only run it in warm weather months anyway, so we're going to call that good. Plus I got a bunch of this oil to use up. Fire it up here. Check for leaks. Alrighty. Alright, oil lights out. I think that's gonna just about wrap up this oil change and service. Oh yeah, right in the middle. Yes, we're calling that good. Alright, we got the oil change wrapped up. We're going to move on to a little special something. Well, we're getting ready to do a little more on the Geo here, and look who stopped down to join me. Sandy's going to join us. Are you going to supervise the last steps? Is that the deal? She's looking at Pam.
Hi. I think I'm going to supervise the last steps also.
Yeah. Are you going to help her, Poops? That's her nickname, Pooper. Long story. Anyway, let's move on to the last step. Okay, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we refer to the truck as Colonel Potter. Now, I'm not one for naming my vehicles, but sometimes a name pops up and it just sticks. So, my best friend Jeff, who has a place with us up next to the river, actually next door, and his wife Jo is, she's a riot. So one night we were around a cat fire at someone else's place, and so a whole bunch of people were there. She needed to run back and get something, and Colonel Potter was at the back closest. And I said, here, just take the Geo, because I just called it the Geo at the time. Well, she'd never driven it, so she drives it down to their place and drives it back. And she says, that thing's kind of fun. And I said, yeah. She goes, it needs a name. I said, what do you mean? She goes, it reminds me of Colonel Potter from MASH. And there you have it. So, thanks to Jo for naming it, and we got kind of a little surprise for Jo and everybody else. Pamela has a new Cricut machine, and she said, I'm going to make you some stuff. So, we have some decals here for Colonel Potter, and we'll be back and show you the final product. Behold Pamela's handiwork. We have a little homage to the MASH TV show. Some of you will pick up on some of this. And if you don't, that's okay. And if you do, you're old like us.
Hey, we're not old. We're just seasoned.
We have, what is that? Patina. We're patinaed.
Oh, I like
Here, look
that.
out. There we go. So, Colonel Potter officially has a name. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Inevitable Jim. I want to thank Pamela for making the decals. Sandy looks like she's about ready to be done supervising. She's ready going tight.
She's going tight?
She's tired. I know this was a bit of a short video, but had to get the maintenance done on Colonel Potter. And so thanks for bearing with me on that. I hope you enjoyed what little we did here. So up next, the 1978 Mercury Cougar XR7. I put some pictures out there, and you overwhelming response was yes, you want to see me get it running. I got it from a gentleman that bought it from someone that had been sitting for them for like 10, 15 years. He bought it 12 years or so ago, never got around to it. Now I've got the car. So Richie's going to come over tomorrow night. We're going to get started on that one. And then we got to take a little break. The 2-post lift behind me, Tuesday morning. It's Sunday now, Tuesday morning. That's actually coming out. We're going to upgrade to the 4-post drive-on. More information on that coming up as well. As always, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And in the meantime, go out and have some fun.